Hi everybody, this is Dee Dee Vergatos from In the Know Radio, and today we're going to be interviewing Melissa Roth. Melissa is a certified clinical hypnotherapist and a doctor of behavioral science. As a result of healing herself from irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, and rheumatoid arthritis, which came much later on using self-hypnosis, Melissa went on to become a clinical hypnotherapist specializing in the medical applications of hypnotherapy. She continues to develop techniques and protocols to relieve the suffering of people experiencing illness and chronic conditions for which conventional medicine has little to offer. She also teaches classes in person, online, and has home study versions for both clients and professionals of her protocols for medical hypnotherapy. So welcome, Melissa. It's such a privilege to have you here. Thank you so much. So you specialize in medical hypnosis. Were you doing just sort of a general type of hypnosis before that?
When I first started out, I started out as a generalist.
Okay.
And had no clients. And so I succumbed to the marketing concept of the time, which was run big display ads in the Sunday paper. So I ran one in the Sunday paper, and I got 4 phone calls and 0 clients, and then I was out of money.
Oh, okay.
And so I was thinking, what am I going to do? Well, my background had been in the pharmaceutical industry, and so I thought, well, I used to do all this training and train pharmaceutical sales reps. I know how to do that. I know how to talk to physicians. So I just started calling on physicians and saying, I started by asking them to send their smokers and their overweight clients. And they sent a few of those, but mostly they started sending just the things that frustrated them. The difficult, the high maintenance clients that just frustrate physicians and they don't have time to deal with them. And it was all this off the wall stuff.
Such as?
Oh, well, it turned out to be a lot of fibromyalgia, a lot of autoimmune diseases, anxiety. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of rampant nowadays, doesn't it?
Well, anxiety is rampant, and there are no drugs that work very well for it.
Yes.
You go to your doctor and you say, I'm just so stressed, I'm about to jump out of my skin, and I'm always looking over my shoulder for the next shoe to fall. Well, you're going to come out with a SSRI antidepressant. What do antidepressants have to do with stress and anxiety? Nothing. But there aren't any other drugs that they can give you, and most doctors feel like they need to give you something. So that's what they give. They know it won't work, but they're, like I said, they're frustrated and they feel a need to give you something.
So when did all these diseases come along? It seems like
mine or others.
Yours. Seems like the universe is going, here, you want to work with it? Why don't you experience it?
That's pretty much what the universe has done.
I mean, you've had irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, and then, as I understand, the rheumatoid arthritis came. What was it, last year or the year before?
No. It was a few years ago.
Yeah.
But there was a big gap.
The universe gave you a break.
Yeah.
So what? Well, okay. So how did you help yourself using hypnosis?
It was a lot of trial and error, Dee Dee. I tried the conventional wisdom of the day, which 20 years ago was regression to cause. And every time I would do that, I would get a different cause. I would get a different ISE. And I'm going, wait a minute, this can't be right. Obviously, this isn't working. So actually, I just had an epiphany one day. My nephew just had a little baby. And I realized that the baby didn't breathe rhythmically. And I thought, I wonder why that is. So and then I noticed as this baby grew that one thing after the other would kind of come online. They'd learn to breathe rhythmically. They would learn to, regulate their body temperature. This is all long before movement. So I realized that what was happening, or I theorized what was happening, that the unconscious mind was training all of these bodily systems and functions. And so I started doing some research, and sure enough, it appears that's what was going on. Your unconscious mind starts training your autonomic nervous system when you're in utero. And then it continues that training in the first few weeks and months of life. And then it kind of, when it gets one system down, it goes, okay, put that one on autopilot, let's go to the next one. And so I thought, these are all dysautonomic illnesses.
Right.
Simply meaning something's not working right.
Well, it's the same thing with pain management.
Exactly.
It's the interpretation of the signal rather than...
Well, no, pain management is the interpretation of the signal.
Yeah, so you have to
These
retrain the brain.
These others were retraining the autonomic nervous system. And my theory was that if the unconscious mind trained them to begin with, when you're a newborn, then you ought to be able to use it to retrain them to function normally again.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, 20 years ago, it was an unheard of concept, but
it's common sense theory, though.
Yeah. So, and nothing else that I had done had worked. So when I started formulating suggestions around that theory, it did work.
And it worked for you first?
It worked for me first.
So you were the guinea pig.
I was the guinea pig. And my sister noticed that I'd gone back to work, and she called up and she said, "What did you do?" And I told her. She said, "Fix me." And I said,
well, did she have problems too?
Oh, yeah. All these things tend to run in families.
Right.
And so I said, well, come on over. And she showed up for her third session with 17 of her closest friends and family members in tow.
Wow.
She says, everybody wants to be fixed. My sister's real shy. Can you guess? But so I went, okay. So that was the first 17. And they all became symptom-free too. At that point I thought, I might be onto something. Because Peter Horwell, who is a gastroenterologist in Manchester, England, pioneered hypnosis for irritable bowel syndrome treatment. But he was only getting, 50% of his clients were getting better. Nobody was getting well. They were just getting better. And I was getting everybody symptom-free. So I launched a 2-year controlled research project. And in that 2 years, I determined what were the suggestions that were going to produce the best results. The timing, the sequence of sessions, all the things that I needed to know so that it kind of acted like a machine. And it has been acting like a machine ever since. And for irritable bowel syndrome, 86% of people will become completely symptom-free, and they'll remain that way after the sessions end. And it only takes an average of 6 sessions.
Oh, it's only 6 for irritable bowel.
Yeah. Now, fibromyalgia is a different story.
So tell us about that. What do you think, because the medical system has no theory on the cause?
No clue.
What do you think? Do you see any like emotional patterns or personality behavior patterns?
I don't see emotional patterns. I've worked with, I quit counting at like 2,000 fibromyalgia clients.
Oh, wow.
And I can honestly say that in those people, there's not a common denominator as far as an emotion goes. Most of them, there are behaviors that are quite common, and they're all driven. They don't know when to stop or to back off.
Same with chronic fatigue.
Exactly. You know, and as an aside, If you look on the internet, they try to tell you that chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia are just different ends of the same spectrum. I don't buy it.
Okay.
I believe chronic fatigue is a virus, not the cytomegalovirus, but
The Epstein-Barr?
maybe not necessarily. But and the reason is because if you treat it, it gets better. If you don't treat it, it gets better.
Uh-oh.
Chronic fatigue is a self-limiting illness,
What do you mean by self-limiting?
meaning that it may take six months, it may take 3 years, but at some point, whether you treat it or not, that client is going to get better.
Okay. You mean treat it with physical remedies?
With medications, whatever you do, at some point, they're going to get better regardless of what you do or don't do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a self-limiting illness. And as such, I figure it's probably a virus that causes that.
Mm-hmm.
Fibromyalgia, I do not believe is a virus. I think it's more a personality type that just blows out their adrenocortical system.
Mm-hmm.
Pituitary, thyroid, etc., parathyroids, etc.
Mm.
They just don't ever slow down. They don't stop.
Yes.
And even
I
when
know the
they,
type.
even when even in the face of just extreme fatigue, they're still pushing.
Mm-hmm.
And their recovery, their body's recovery system has now been so stressed and so stressed
Mm-hmm.
for so long that it's just going, I'm out of here. I'm not working. I'm not working for you again.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what I know. There's not a common personality or emotional issue.
Mm-hmm.
Personality-wise, pretty common. They're just really
Ever-ready bunnies.
Yeah.
They can't stop.
yeah.
Okay, and what about, because do you work with a lot of cancer people as well?
I work with a fair number of cancer people. I don't work with as many as I used to because autoimmune diseases have just taken over my practice.
So what do you think of autoimmune? Do you think that they're on the increase?
Autoimmune definitely is on the increase.
Oh, tell us a little bit about that. What's going on?
My personal belief
Mm-hmm.
is that it's a combination of GMOs,
Mm-hmm.
Roundup usage, and those have kind of set the stage, and then there's environmental triggers,
Okay.
and it just overwhelms the body.
So you're saying it's got a physical cause?
It does have a physical cause.
Okay.
We don't know what that physical cause is
Like
yet,
toxicity?
but it's
Yeah.
generally toxicity.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, the thing about fibromyalgia, if you catch it early enough, then it is reversible. But if you wait until they've tipped over, I call it a tipping point.
Mm-hmm.
If the client's tipped over into a full-blown fibromyalgia, then you have to retrain the autonomic nervous system.
So that's
that
your
takes-
theory again.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, the retraining of the autonomic nervous system.
Well, you use, like I said, you use the unconscious mind that trained all those processes to begin with as the instrument that you use to retrain them. Think about it this way. You're driving along in your car, everything's fine, you hit this pothole in the road, and it knocks your car wheels out of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't go back looking for the pothole and say, I found you, now my car wheels ought to be realigned. No, you just take it to a mechanic. The mechanic bangs around on it with a hammer, gives you your car back, and he realigned your wheels. And so then you go off and your car runs fine again. Well, it's the same thing. You're going down the road of life and everything's going pretty well, and you're happy and living your life, and you hit this pothole in the road of life. Now that pothole can be mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, or any combination of the above. It can be a big pothole, or it can be a little one you happen to hit just right. Or it can be that proverbial pothole that broke the camel's back. Mm-hmm. But when that happens, just like your car wheels got knocked out of alignment, that pothole in the road of life knocks your autonomic nervous system out of alignment, and it knocks it out of alignment at your personal weakest link. For many people, that will be irritable bowel. For some people, it will be fibromyalgia. For other people, it will be other illnesses. But when that happens, you don't go back looking for the emotional cause or the physical cause or whatever, because it's irrelevant at that point.
Just got to retrain.
You have to deal with where the client is. And so if you retrain or realign the autonomic nervous system, all the fibromyalgia symptoms go away, and they don't return.
And you do that through hypnosis?
Yes, you do that through hypnosis.
Okay, fantastic. So tell us about rheumatoid arthritis, since you...
Why not?
Well, I mean, you've had it all.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to whatever comes next.
Didn't you say that your whole knee had been...
My knee, I had a golf ball size pannus on my knee.
And you went to 7 different rheumatologists to confirm it.
Yeah.
You wanted to be sure you had it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to, if I found one that said, no, I don't think so, I was going to take that one. Because I figured, I should get a choice, right?
Yeah.
But no, they all 7 confirmed it was rheumatoid arthritis. It's kind of hard not to when you've got a golf ball sticking out of the side of your knee. But I was going to be in denial, and I was going to get the medical profession to help me be in denial.
Well, at least you recognize it.
So I just had to start working on myself again.
Okay.
As a guinea pig, and my friend Roger Moore.
He had it as well.
He had it. He was the reason that I started studying it. Mm-hmm. And I think the universe was kind of going, look, we'll give it to you. You can figure it out, and then once you figure it out, you can help Roger, and you'll be okay. I guess I don't know really why, but so he contributed the nutritional part because I have tell all of my both my fibromyalgia clients and my autoimmune clients to get themselves on a low glycemic index diet.
Is it an anti-inflammatory diet as well?
Yes.
Yeah? Because that's what it is inflammation.
Yes. Why are they having the inflammation is the key. And I don't know why. I don't have a common denominator.
And it's realigning with the rheumatoid arthritis. Is it retraining the
right? You're retraining your
immune system.
You're retraining your immune system and your autonomic nervous system, because your immune system is guided and directed by your autonomic nervous system. Mm-hmm. So all of these are what we call dysautonomic illnesses, meaning that it's just not working right. That's all that means.
It's gotten out of sync or something, or shut down for a while, as you say.
Well, you're not old enough to remember the old LP vinyl albums.
Oh, yes, I am. I've had many.
They would get stuck in a groove sometimes.
Yes.
They would play over.
Right.
Over.
CDs do that too. But we're past them too.
Yeah. I went to buy CDs the other day. I couldn't find any. I had to go to 3 stores to find blank CDs. I'm going, oh man, I'm in trouble.
So anyway, so we get, it's like the nervous system gets stuck in this groove.
In a groove, and it just keeps going in that groove over and over and over. Now, you can bump it out of that groove, but you have to remember that your unconscious mind is a minimalist. If I say, take the pain out of Dee Dee's right knee, it'll go, okay, I'll put it in the left, I don't care. So when you bump this, bump whatever out of this groove that it's in, you've got to be pretty direct about where you want it to go. Otherwise, the unconscious mind may create something worse.
Yeah,
Or
it wants to
equally
keep
obnoxious.
something going on.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, so you have to be very, very specific in retraining.
It's very literal.
Yeah.
The unconscious is so very literal.
Oh yeah, very literal, and like I said, and a minimalist. So it's going to take the path of least resistance.
So what helped you most with the rheumatoid?
I got into a low glycemic index diet, which relieved a lot of the pain that's associated. And then I just went through all the various systems that feed in: the immune system, the autonomic nervous system, your thyroid at times. I just went through all the major systems and asked the unconscious mind to realign those systems, make them work like they used to, like they're supposed to. And when you do that, assuming that there's not some overriding reason that the unconscious mind is going, nah, I'm not doing that, then everything just works again.
Okay, so we had started talking about cancer.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. What do you think there's a long time ago they used to say there was a cancer personality type? Does cancer, is it different from some of these diseases?
It is different.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that there's a different cancer personality. What I will say is that every time you have a stressful incident, your body reacts the same way. It doesn't distinguish some jerk cutting you off in traffic from the death of a close loved one. The response is the same. One of the things that happens in that response is that up to 60% of your immune cells drop out of circulation in response to stress. They go hide back in your gut and your tissue spaces. They're going, oh, I don't want to be around this.
Oh, I thought it was the opposite.
And, well, no. And
I thought it caused an immune response.
No, unrelenting stress can. But what happens is if you don't have your defense system in place, then your body is left open to all sorts of illnesses, cancer being one of them. Because everybody has cancer cells circulating in their body at any given time. Now, most of them you excrete in your urine and your feces, but they're replenished by others. And most of us, thank goodness, don't develop cancer. So I think the stress connection is big.
So obviously when you deal with people with cancer, you have to address that.
You have to address that. And so I just ask them to, basically I do a reframe and anchor. And we identify all the reasons that they think that they developed cancer. And then we do a reframe and anchor around those.
And because many of our listeners may be people that are not hypnotists as well, can you explain what that would do?
Well, what it does is, from the client's perspective, what it does is the button just doesn't get pushed anymore. Or you've disconnected the emotions from that button, You see the Staples, easy button, well, you push it, you get office supplies pretty much immediately. But with your buttons, my buttons, somebody pushes them, the goal is to kind of disconnect the wires. So they can stand there and push on the button all day long and they don't get a response.
It's not going to affect you.
Yeah. You just don't feel the same way about it anymore. Which is nice.
Yes, it is. You can't push my buttons anymore.
That's right. Nee.
That's great. So what have you seen the fact that people are getting better, they're healed. They don't have any symptoms anymore. So that's pretty miraculous in itself.
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, my next question was, have you seen anything that's so astounding and miraculous that it defies medical convention altogether?
Oh, most of the time, yeah.
So tell us some of the cases you worked with that...
We'll call this Lady Jane. That's not her real name. But,
sure.
And this was one I used in class. Jane was coming to see me for MS. And the first session that she came in for, my office was 2 little bitty steps down from the main floor. I had to physically help her down the steps. She had to get out of her wheelchair, and I had to help her down the steps into my recliner. And over the next couple of sessions, she got well enough that she was using a cane, and then she ditched the cane and was able to walk the 2 steps down. And then she came in one day and she was just not a happy camper. She was distraught, she was angry, she was upset. I said, so Jane, what gives? What's wrong? She said, well, I just came from my MS doctor, my neurologist, and she took me off all my MS medications. And I go, really? And I'm thinking, this is fantastic. I said, why did she take you off your MS medication? She says I don't have lesions anymore. I said, you don't have any new lesions? And I'm just, I'm ecstatic. And she's going, no, she said, I don't have any lesions anymore. And I said, she said, but I still have MS, don't I? And I went, do you need to have MS? She goes, yes. My divorce isn't final. Okay. So I gave her suggestions that she could keep whatever symptoms she needed as long as she needed them. The symptoms would not have to do damage to her body. And that when her divorce was final, she could choose the ones to give up. I saw her not long ago, and she had one small brace on one leg, and she was going to physical therapy to strengthen it, and she was virtually symptom-free.
She got the divorce?
Yeah, she got the divorce. And then I had another lady who had been diagnosed with lupus. And like me, she wanted to be in denial, so she'd gone to several rheumatologists. And I think she'd gone to 4 or 5 rheumatologists. And they had all diagnosed her with lupus. And she had been in a lot of pain. And we worked together for a few sessions, a handful of sessions. And she was out of pain, and she went on her merry way. And I happened to run into her at a Thanksgiving party 18 months later. And she confided to me, she says, she said, I went to another new rheumatologist, and all those others had to have misdiagnosed me because I don't have lupus anymore at all. And I went, and you're happy about that? And she goes, I'm thrilled about that. I'm so glad you were misdiagnosed.
So let's explain, just for our audience, so that we can educate them a bit, secondary gain.
Secondary gain is when you get an emotional payoff
Or financial.
payoff for a particular behavior. And those behaviors can be physical illnesses. But secondary gain is really easy to dislodge if you know how it works. You have to realize that, and I believe that the secondary gain isn't a bad thing necessarily.
And secondary gain could be something like disability payments.
It could be disability payments. If the only way that Mama knows to get Papa to put down the newspaper at the dinner table and look at her and talk to her is to have pain or dysfunction, you can bet she's going to have pain or dysfunction. Mm-hmm. But anyone, in my opinion, who has had an illness for longer than 3 weeks has some degree of secondary gain. Because what happens when you're ill or you're injured? People give you attention. If nobody else, the doctor gives you some attention until they figure out what is or isn't wrong. So you get attention.
And by the way, secondary gain is all unconscious. The person doesn't even know they're doing it.
No, the person has no clue.
It's up to you, the hypnotherapist,
that's right.
to work with it.
So I have a really quick way to release secondary gain issues. Mm-hmm. And basically it works with the fact that the unconscious mind is a minimalist and it's very literal. And so you just give it a different job or a different way that it can get more of what the secondary gain is giving it, but now can't do it any longer because you just kind of exposed it. And the unconscious mind goes, more, really, more attention, more love. Oh yeah, I'll take that.
It changes its ways.
It's a greedy little booger, And if you can give it a way that it can get whatever need the secondary gain is fulfilling for this client, you give it more, but you put the unconscious mind in what's called an Ericksonian bind. There's three. I say, you know what? You can create any new behaviors for this client that you want, as long as they're healthy, positive, and beneficial for this client. And so the unconscious mind is going, yeah, oh, it's got to fit those parameters. Okay, I could. And then you give it a laundry list of things that it could do. And with me, most of the time it goes, oh no, that is so dumb. But I could do this. I go, great, do that. So if you know how to work with it, it's really easily dislodged. And then the client can go on and live, a more functional, healthier, happier life.
So do you think there's any, have you reached the limit of hypnosis? Do you think there are limits? I hope you don't have to get another disease. No more diseases. But yeah, because you've already...
Are there limits? That's a question that I have been kicking around for a few years now. I don't know. But my gut feeling is that no. Because the mind and the body are one. Mm-hmm. Yes, when you have an emotional issue, it affects your body physically. But, sometimes the bus just hits you. Right. And, I could reach over and punch you, and not only would that cause you a physical problem, it would cause you an emotional problem too.
Sure.
You cannot separate the mind and the body. And I believe it's a two-way street. Yes, your emotions can create physical illness, but physical illness can create negative emotions as well.
So you have to work with both of them.
You have to work with both.
And are there any other diseases that you've seen miraculous improvements in besides the autoimmune, cancer, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel, rheumatoid arthritis?
What else?
That would defy medical orthodoxy.
Pain. Pain control is the easiest thing I've ever done in hypnosis.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's easy. You realize that pain is neither good nor bad. It's just a collection of sensations. You ask somebody, Dee Dee, have you ever had, or do you have pain now?
From time to time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then you ask the client, well, describe it to me. And they start giving you words like it's stabbing, or it's dull, it aches, it hurts, it's, all these different adjectives that people use to describe their sensations.
Mm-hmm.
But you realize they're just sensations, and sensations in and of themselves are neither good nor bad. They just are. For it to turn into misery and suffering, pain has to first be consciously recognized.
Okay.
At the conscious level. And then it has to assign a value and a meaning. It has to be cognitively interpreted before it can turn into misery and suffering.
Yeah, that's the after effect. Is like, oh, pain signal. Ooh, oh, I feel terrible. Oh, I'm suffering.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, that's the progression.
Right. So what you do in pain control is you catch it at the unconscious level before it's recognized, mm-hmm. and before it's been interpreted as being something awful that you're to avoid. And you scramble the interpretation.
And you have your ways of doing that.
Yes.
By the way, Melissa has many home study programs for those of you who want to learn how to do pain, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel. But yeah, so you've come up with many. And how many sessions does it take to get rid of, let's say it's a leftover pain, like a leftover nerve pain from an accident, or?
Generally, it takes about 3 sessions.
Right.
The most I've ever done for somebody was 6 sessions. And that was a young man who, he had his first amputation at 5 due to bone cancer. He then had 7 more amputations.
Ooh, what was left?
A hip socket, basically.
Wow.
And a just below his knee on the left side, and but the nerve tissue had grown. Instead of growing around the stump, his grew up into the lumen of the bone. And of course, there's no place to go in there, and it is inflamed, and it hurts like hell. And so they brought him in to see me, and he took 6 sessions, and then he was pain-free.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he was 26 at the time, so he'd been dealing with pain for 21 years.
Oh, I feel so bad for people like that.
It just broke my heart.
For sure.
He was then able to go on and do. In fact, his sister let me know a few years later that he had actually gotten a job and was working. So I felt really good about that, because he spent his day trying to cope with the pain before.
So you also helped your friend Roger heal from rheumatoid arthritis. I did not know that if a person's fingers were crippled up, they could uncripple. Is that normal, or?
Well, no. I mean, we asked him to.
I thought once they were, because you said his fingers were literally
they were all
twisted
gnarled,
up,
twisted,
and then now they're fine, and
they're straight now.
They're straight, and he bikes 100 miles at a time.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So is that uncommon in traditional medicine for a person's hands to straighten?
Traditional medicine.
So it's not normal.
No. Conventional medicine, I don't know that they've ever managed to do that.
So when he goes back to his doctor and his hands are straight, what does the doctor say about that?
I don't know.
Yeah, because I would say, what are you doing?
Well, I don't know that
yeah.
Roger has gone back to a doctor since then.
I just didn't even know it was possible.
Pretty jaded about. I mean, I'm jaded about what physicians can do because they have such a limited toolbox. You know, they've got surgery, they've got pharmaceuticals, they've got physical therapy, and that's about it. You know, but people come in and they dump all these problems on them I mean, if your plumber only came in with 3 tools, I'd show him the back door just as fast as he came in the front door. Go, no. You're coming to fix my plumbing. You better bring in a whole toolbox. But that's all physicians have. And so they become very, very frustrated. And then they become angry.
Yeah, I'm sure they feel a little helpless.
Yeah. And so, you know, if you educate them about what hypnosis can do, then most of them are willing to embrace it.
So do you get a lot of doctors' referrals?
Oh, that's how I built all my practices, both my practices, is strictly from physician referrals. 62% of my clients are from physician referrals. There's about 4% that just stumbles across my website, and the rest are word of mouth from somebody I've worked with.
I see. So if you had one thing that you could leave everybody with about just the power of the mind, how to use it in the right way, or how to work with our unconscious, what would you say?
Well, your unconscious, whether you're a hypnotherapist or just, you know, Jane or Joe on the street, your unconscious is always talking to you. Learn how to listen, because it will talk to you. It will tell you, if you keep doing this, we're not going to get along. We're not going to be friends anymore, and I'm going to stop you, and you may not like how I stop you, because your unconscious knocks louder and louder and louder until it gets your attention. And sometimes it gets your attention by totally stopping you and making you bedridden.
Right.
So if you learn how to listen to your unconscious mind, you know, in that daydreamy time, you know, as you're waking up or as you're going to sleep, just ask your unconscious mind, hey, unconscious, what do I need to do about this?
That would be like a problem or a behavioral pattern or emotional
Or if you just learn to tune in and listen, then it will talk to you and it'll tell you what you need to do. So that's what I would leave people with, is learn to listen to your unconscious mind. And if you're deaf, then go see a hypnotherapist who can teach you how to listen.
That's great. Thank you so much for being a part of the program.
Thank you.